You're listening to Strange by Nature, your guide to the strange, weird, unbelievable, and improbable wonders of the natural world.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for being here today. I'm Kirk Mona, and joining me are Rachel Gimza and Victoria Thompson. We're all naturalists who together have scoured the world for weird and wonderful wonders, just to please your mammalian brain's desire for novelty. Isn't that nice? Let's do this. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show again. My co-hosts Rachel and Victoria, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. Phenomenal. The sun was out today. Made me miss California.
Yes, indeed. I know. No longer in California. You're back with us.
I am.
Well, how do you feel about traveling again, Rachel?
I'm in. Let's go. Say less.
Cool. Well, this week we are traveling to the Philippines.
Okay.
And
Kirk, I'm also heading to the Philippines later, so we might want to stay there later.
Uh-oh.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh.
Is this the moment that it happens?
Is it going to happen?
I don't know.
Well, let's see. I was going to say, we haven't talked about the Philippines on the show before ever, I don't think, which is a big oversight. Really cool place.
It really
I feel like
I thought it was about
we've
time.
probably talked about a lot of species that are like ocean species that occur in the Philippines.
There, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yes.
Specifically, I want to travel to the island of Leyte. Is that where you were going to take us, Rachel?
I will say that my critter that I'm talking about occurs in more than just the Philippines.
Oh, well, then it's definitely not the critter I'm talking about.
Okay.
Woo! We're actually going to also do a little, perhaps a little time traveling, because we're going to go back to the year 1944. And back in that year, some scientists collected an animal specimen there that has for a long time been a mystery. Specifically, they found a frog that has been known as the Leyte, hope I'm saying that right, Leyte chorus frog. And chorus frogs are a very common type of frog where I work, probably the most common one we hear this time of year. But just to add to the confusion here, they are not at all related species. The only thing they seem to have in common is that they are both frogs and they both have chorus in their name. That's it. I just wanted to clear that up because common names can get really confusing. And I'm probably going to say the name of this island different every single time, but the Leyte chorus frog is scientifically known as Calula conjuncta sticklei. It is a fascinating amphibian that is native to Leyte Island in the Philippines. Its story is one of mystery, rarity, and scientific intrigue spanning decades of research and discovery. I do need to point out here that the frog itself, it's not really all that strange. From an appearance standpoint, it's just kind of a frog. What is truly strange about this frog is that it has been really, really hard to nail down just what it is, how to classify it, and even how to find it. And like I said earlier, the Leyte chorus frog was first collected in 1944, and then it was, went into a collection. It was formally described in scientific literature in 1954. But from the outset, it stood out due to its unusual physical traits. Particularly, it had very distinctive toe discs or toe pads. And these features kind of puzzled scientists and led to debates about exactly how to classify this frog. It was definitely different than other frogs in the area, but also shared some traits that they had seen. There are other ones that have toe pads, but they are much bigger than this. And initially, the frog was categorized as a subspecies within sort of a broader complex of frogs. But its rarity and peculiarities raised questions about whether it might actually be an entirely different species. Now, part of the problem with solving the mystery was that despite regular sampling efforts by researchers, only 2 of these frogs were ever found.
What?
Back in 1944.
Okay, I want to pause and
Yeah.
I'm astounded that somebody was going on a frog collecting expedition in 1944 in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That it seems like a challenging time and place to be working. To be sure.
Yep.
And so
Wow.
only two
Good
of these
choice.
frogs were collected back in 1944. I don't know if it had anything to do with, world events at the time. But no more of them could ever be located after that initial collection. And so people were sort of, the fear was that they were extinct. And maybe back in 1944, the species was on the brink of extinction, and the two found were the last two, or they were like rare hangers-on from a doomed population that was once much larger. And to be clear, back in the 1940s, there was tremendous pressure on the forest that these frogs were found in. Deforestation was absolutely rampant. The Philippines, for those that don't know, is not one island, but is an archipelago of, you want to guess how many islands?
A lot.
3.
Correct. 7,641 islands.
Oh,
that's a lot of islands.
Oh, that's many islands.
A lot of islands. So these islands were once blanketed with dense forests, but well spotted. But deforestation due to logging and like agricultural expansion was at the time, it continues to be very widespread. So a lot of pressures on wildlife there. A lot of environmental degradation has led to severe fragmentation of wildlife populations, including those of this chorus frog. And the altered habitats have not only threatened the survival of many species, but also complicated the ecological interactions amongst animals. And for this particular chorus frog, these disruptions played a crucial role in shaping its identity, it turns out. The frog's peculiarities are believed to be the direct result of habitat changes, which influenced its behavioral and ecological traits. Okay, so how do we know all this? One of the key factors in solving the mystery of the Leyte chorus frog was the use of museum collections. So they had those original two that were collected back in 1944, but also some were also found on a nearby island, Mindanao Island. Much more recently, in 1996, at least I still think of 1996 as recently, even though I know it isn't. I will say, in my defense, it is much more recent than 1944,
Yes.
Which I was not alive for.
Right.
These historical records actually provided invaluable insights into the frog's genetic makeup and evolutionary history. And these clues have finally shed light on this strange and mysterious frog. So nowadays we have so many more tools at our disposal than we did in 1944 or even in 1996. Because even when these extra specimens were found, that didn't instantly solve the mystery. They're like, oh, weird, we found more of these. Okay. I believe the grand total they came up with in the end was 7. We've only ever found 7 of these frogs. But recent studies conducted by evolutionary biologists from the University of Kansas employed some innovative genetic analysis to finally reveal the true identity of this rare frog, and in the process also solve the mystery of why it is so rare and hard to find. Well, it turns out it isn't what we thought. This new research revealed that the Leyte chorus frog is not merely a rare subspecies, as most people had assumed, but rather it is a distinctive result of hybridization between two completely different species that were never meant to meet.
Okay.
What?
Yeah. So it turns out the Leyte chorus frog is actually an F1 hybrid, meaning it is a first-generation cross between two different frog species. And the hybridization was likely driven by deforestation. Wah, wah. But the deforestation forced the intermingling of populations that don't usually run into each other. So one of the parent species has big toe pads and lives high up in trees, while the other parent has virtually no toe pads and lives down in bushes. And when these two species of frogs were driven together by deforestation, turns out they found out they could mate with each other, and they formed these rare hybrids. I mentioned the toe pads only because I started out talking about how it was a mystery to them that they had sort of these medium-sized toe pads. And that's exactly what you'd expect if you crossed a frog with big toe pads with one that has no toe pads.
Smaller.
So After 80 years, we now know that the Latte chorus frog isn't a new species of frog at all. It isn't a subspecies. It is a freakish and rare hybrid between two different frogs. And that may be why they found so few, is that it was actually really rare for them to interbreed. It took 80 years to solve this mystery, which I think is pretty amazing. The Latte chorus frog serves
phenomenal.
as a prime example of how human-influenced habitat changes can directly influence the genetic and ecological characteristics of wildlife, which certainly has huge implications, I think, but also more so just for our purposes here on the show. It once again proves our adage that nature laughs at our little boxes.
So true.
And it can be really, really difficult to nail down the concept of what is and isn't even a species. You know, if let's say a whole bunch of these end up, occurring, I couldn't find any research as to whether or not they think they would actually be fertile hybrids. But, if they were, and then they found out they could live in kind of this degraded habitat, is that the creation of a new species, right? Like, the definition of what is and isn't a different species is, it's muddy. It's really muddy. It's not really clear.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, it's cool, though, that we finally have solved an 80-year-old mystery in science. Sometimes we don't get to report,
really cool.
like, we're like, here's a cool mystery, and there's no solution. Today, I got to report on one that we actually know the answer to now, which is really cool.
Yes. Thank you, Kirk.
My source for this week was a press release from the University of Kansas, who are bragging about what their peeps had done. Detailed how the researchers finally cracked this 80-year-old mystery open. So, good job, everyone.
Nice.
We are going to take a break, and when we get back, Rachel is taking us back to the Philippines? Is that right?
Yeah, they can be found there. Sure.
Okay.
Very cool. We'll find out.
How realistic are the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park? My name is Dan, host of Based on a True Story, the podcast that compares your favorite Hollywood movies with history. I had a chat with the paleontologist who consulted on all the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World movies to find out the real history behind the dinosaurs we see in the movies. And it doesn't stop there. From Indiana Jones and Pirates of the Caribbean to Saving Private Ryan and Tombstone, if you've ever wondered how much of your favorite movies really happened, head on over to basedonatruestorypodcast.com to find out. Once again, that's basedonatruestorypodcast.com.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Now, like Kirk said, we're headed to the tropical forests of Southeast Asia. However, they can be found in the Philippines, so I'm glad that we're already there. Have either of you heard of a bearcat?
Bearcat.
I feel like
Maybe?
I have. I don't know a lot about them, though.
I like how the
It sounds
wheels
really
are
familiar.
It should sound familiar. Fabulous.
It's
I
a
love
real
it when
rusty
this happens.
wheel, but yeah.
Oh, I see the wheel going and it's not quite there. Okay, so we're exploring.
not.
We are looking for those hybrid frogs Kirk talked about. We're checking out so many birds and
Yeah.
bugs. I don't know about, you both know this. When you get a bunch of naturalists together, we either walk so fast through the forest because we have a destination we need to get somewhere, or we have moved 5 feet in an hour. And that has been the hike. There's no in between.
That sounds completely accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're on a mission to find one of these bearcats. They're hanging out. I think for funsies, we can go to a different island where there's more tropical rainforests or tropical forests. And we're looking for these bearcats. They're high up in the trees, high up in the canopies. They don't really come down. So we have our binoculars out. We're checking it out. We're looking. And we look up and we finally spot one. You think it would be easy to spot because it's about the size of a coyote in body.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice.
Right. It's high up in the tree. Please remember this. Its body is about anywhere from 2 to 3 feet long. It's got
I'm
a
now
tail.
imagining a coyote in a tree, which is a very weird image.
It's not.
Right.
It's not inaccurate. I'm glad you have that image. Let me mold that image for you. So it's
Please
about
do.
2 to 3 feet long. Its tail is also anywhere from 2 to 3 feet long. It's about as long as the body. So let's imagine a 3-foot long tail. So this is a 6-foot long animal up in this tree. Okay?
Okay, that's large.
In the canopy. That's pretty large, right?
Yeah.
These bearcats, they look a lot like raccoons without a mask. They have long whiskers. They've got shaggy, dark brown, coarse fur. And this long tail has a patch on the tip of their tail. Now, both of you thought the wheels were going. They are much better known by the other name, the Binturong.
There it is.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Binturong.
Mhm.
Okay.
Wait, I think that's on my
So-
list.
We
Too
actually
late.
Yeah.
did touch base about this.
Yes,
Went
that's
way
why.
back. I don't remember what
They smell like
episode we
buttered
talked about.
popcorn.
They smell like buttered popcorn, and that came up
Yes.
in one episode
Yes.
somewhere.
I did a whole episode about animals that smell like food.
There it
There you
is.
go.
I couldn't find or figure out which one, but I knew we had talked about it, but we didn't touch base about it. So I'm not going to talk too much about the fact that they, smell like buttered popcorn, but they do smell like buttered popcorn, which, is a thing that they smell like. Pretty much everything that I describe Binturongs say that they look kind of like a raccoon, but also not. One source, the San Diego Zoo, loved them so much. They said, and I quote, "Looking like something Dr. Seuss might have dreamed up." Binturong has a face like a cat's
True.
and a body like a bear's. Love them so much. This is phenomenal. They are called bear cats, but it's really misleading because they're not related to bears or cats. They're actually related to civets, so not related at all to any of them. Like I was saying earlier, they generally are like a shaggy dark brown. They have really coarse hair. But what's really cool is the fact that, well, there's a couple different things. Like Victoria mentioned many episodes ago, they smell like popcorn. And I'm pretty sure you talked about this in that particular episode. And they don't eat popcorn, believe it or not. Wild thing.
What?
It's just shocking. They have glands that they use to help communicate to other binturongs because they are solitary for the most part, and they need to be able to communicate with each other and be able to attract mates and things. So the oil that they leave behind on leaves and such smells like buttered popcorn. And it actually has the same
Amazing.
chemical compound that buttered popcorn has that gives it buttered popcorn the smell, which is why they smell like buttered popcorn. Wild.
They have a binturong at the Minnesota Zoo.
Yes, they
And
do.
I was thinking they should sell popcorn like a little
Right
further
there.
down the trail.
Mhm.
Well, because you get there and you'd be like, "Huh, smells like popcorn would be great." And you go in the corner and you're like, "Oh, look, they have popcorn," and like
Woo!
you'd be preloaded like subconsciously to want popcorn by that point.
That would be like
That's just evil.
maybe, but smart marketing technique. Could be
There you
fun. So binturongs are like fascinating. There's a couple of really interesting things about them that I wanted to touch base. So they are an arboreal species, but they are big enough that they actually can't, kind of like sloths, they can't go from tree to tree up in the canopy. They're just too big. So they do have to go to the ground to transfer from tree to tree if the limbs
Okay.
aren't big enough, which is pretty cool. And they actually like go head first down like a squirrel. And their claws like dig in. And they're able to
A
like
big squirrel.
Yeah, it's a big squirrel. Like I said earlier, they with their tail they can get up to 6 feet long, and what I didn't mention is they can get up to almost 80 pounds,
Oh,
which
wow.
is a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. Um, and like
Especially for an animal that spends time way high in the trees.
in a tree, yeah. And that's mostly like the females are the ones that get bigger. They can be and this is a wide variety of like weights. They can weigh as little as 20 pounds, and then I think one of the larger ones that they've ever found is 79 pounds, which is the female actually. The females are larger than the males are. The males are smaller, which is not unusual necessarily in the overall scheme of things in the wild nature in general, which is really cool. So they're up in the tree, they're hanging out. What are they doing up there, right? How are they able to move around other than like claws? Like we know like jaguars and stuff like that. They can hop around from tree to tree, no problem. Binturongs don't really have that. They're pretty low to the ground. But they do have a prehensile tail. And it's not the whole tail. It is just the last third of the tail is prehensile, which means that they're able to use it to anchor and wrap around, very much like how like a monkey's tail, and a couple other like mammals are able to do that. They're able to wrap around something and actually use it to anchor. Some reptiles, I think, can do it too. I think of like a chameleon. Anyway, they are, however, one of only two. They're classified as carnivorous, but they're one of two carnivorous species that have a prehensile tail. The other is the kinkajou.
Oh. Okay.
So
I'm sorry.
Nobody else.
Did you say the Pikachu?
No, the kinkajou.
Oh, that's different. Okay, I
didn't think
Pikachu had a prehensile tail.
No, it has a shocky tail.
Fair enough.
So
good description.
Thank you. So like I said, they are classified as carnivores because they do and they can eat meat, and they do hunt. Like they'll eat fish and rodents and birds, and they'll eat carrion as well, eggs, whatever they can catch. But they do seem to actually prefer and eat more fruits and berries. Specifically that of the strangling fig, which actually have co-evolved to germinate better after the seeds pass through the binturong's digestive tract. It allows the outer coating of the seed to break down and germinate that much better, which is fascinating because we think of them as more of a carnivore because they do have sharp teeth and claws, but they mostly eat fruit. So you don't have to worry about them too much. Yeah, they are.
I wasn't particularly worried.
Yeah, I wasn't either. They look like friendly little like bugs. I love them so much.
Like little tree gremlins, kind of. I don't know.
Yeah, little tree gremlins that are just rolling around, and they have like super muscular bodies. I've seen videos of like keepers showing a binturong and having them like crawl all over them. They look heavy. Okay. I good for them. I'm glad that they have that relationship and they built up that respect and trust between the two, but wow. That looks heavy. I can barely hold a 5 or 4 pound bird on my fist for more than like 15 minutes.
Right.
Oh. So that's kind of what I got about binturongs. They're just really cute. They're really fascinating. They look absolutely bizarre. They have these really cute, like little tuft ears. And on a very different side note, I would like to tell you all, it's phenomenal. Baby binturongs are called binlets.
Oh, that's adorable.
Which is absolutely adorable.
That's great.
Oh,
Love it.
It's phenomenal. And they do cling to their mother's fur when they are very little after they are born, which is also very, very cute. Binturongs, of course, are vulnerable. They live in tropical forests and things like that. So they are dealing with deforestation and such. That being said, my sources this week were the Smithsonian National Zoo and Conservation Biology Institute. The Minnesota Zoo also had a wonderful article all about the binturong, the Aquarium of the Pacific, as well as the San Diego Zoo, which I referenced earlier. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we return, it'll be Victoria.
Hey, we're back. Today I'm going to talk about a fascinating group of creatures that also have a special place in my family. Not as pets, just going to say that, not as pets. Special place in my family, good. As well as in scientific research. And this episode is going to be coming out around Mother's Day. So for reasons I will explain later, I'm actually dedicating this episode to my mom.
Aww. I'm glad I didn't do anything gross.
All right, so what are these animals? Today I am talking about sea hares, also known as Aplysia. They are, as my mom always phrases it, marine gastropod mollusks.
Love it.
Yeah, so gastropods, you probably know, are the group of mollusks that include snails and slugs. Gastropod literally means stomach foot. Aplysia do not have an external shell like a typical snail, although they do have a sort of flimsy and like mostly vestigial shell that's covered up by their mantle, but it kind of protects some of their internal organs. But yes, they're basically sea slugs.
Cool.
Aplysia is a genus name. There are also other genuses of sea hares. They all fall within the bigger family, which is Aplysidae, or however you pronounce that. And you might be wondering where the name a sea hare comes from. It's because the tentacles on the top of their heads look a little bit like bunny ears, and their bodies have a generally kind of rounded shape that kind of give them a rabbit-like appearance.
Okay.
Similar to other snails you might be familiar with, they also have two little tentacles down near their mouth. And along the back of the mantle, which is like the fleshy part of the body, there are two ruffly edges called parapodia, which help protect the gills. And in some species, they are larger and can be kind of used like water wings to glide through the water. Otherwise, they can be found crawling along the seafloor, although some species can also use jet propulsion to swim.
Whoa.
Yeah, like sucking water in through one part of their body and squirting it out the back. They are herbivores, similar in that way also to rabbits, and they graze on algae. So they can only be found in areas that are shallow enough for sunlight to reach and grow algae.
Huh.
Yeah. Okay. And different species will specialize in different types of algae. For example, Aplysia californica, which is the California sea hare, eats red algae. I have not mentioned yet how big these creatures get.
Yeah, how big are these?
Yeah.
Well,
are they tiny? Are they huge? What are they?
Some species are only a few centimeters long, but others can be quite large. The California sea hare can weigh up to 7 kilograms, like 15 pounds, and can be more than 75 centimeters long when fully stretched out. That's more than 30. That's like 30 inches.
Oh,
That's crazy.
oh, that is big. That's
The
huge.
largest sea hare is the California black sea hare, which is a different species than the California sea hare. And it can weigh up to 14 kilograms or 31 pounds. And be
I did
up
not
to
see one of these.
99 centimeters long. That's
That's a
pretty
lot.
long. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
39 inches.
Oh, wow. That's too big. That's very large. Oh, no.
They're vegetarians, Rachel. It's okay.
I know, but that's so
Yeah.
fun.
You'll be okay, Rachel.
I'm not nervous. They're so cool and so large. The ocean's wild.
With these giant, soft-bodied flesh nuggets, you might think that they would be easy prey.
Right.
But if
I'm sorry.
Fleshy
Soft
nugget.
body
That is
flesh
really
nugget.
something.
That was good, Victoria.
yeah, you're welcome. They of course have some pretty cool defense mechanisms. Depends on what kind of algae they're eating, but different algae species actually contain different toxins, which then they can take into their bodies and they can accumulate and like also in some cases chemically alter to make their flesh unpalatable or toxic to predators.
Cool.
But they can also use these compounds or different ones to make ink. And
what?
yeah, so they
Oh,
they
yeah.
can squirt out ink similar to how squid do. But the ink is not only for like blinding their predator, but it can also contain toxins to drive them off, like make them very unpleasant for the predators to be around.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I'm gonna move on now to applause reproduction, which let's just say if you're listening with children, possibly you might want to skip ahead a couple minutes.
Okay.
It can get a
Alright.
bit kinky.
There it is.
Love it. Tracks for sea slugs.
Yeah.
Happy Mother's Day.
All sea hares are hermaphrodites, so they're simultaneously male and female. They can't fertilize themselves, though. They have a penis on the right side of their head, and the vagina is in the cavity of the mantle along the back. And mating is frequently a group activity. So
There you go.
yeah, they'll form long
Some wild parties there.
Yep, long chains with the front animal receiving sperm
Jeez.
from the animal behind it, which is then simultaneously receiving sperm from the animal behind it, and so on and so
efficient.
forth. Also, sometimes form into a ring,
Yep.
like 25 to 30 individuals sometimes.
That's so
I'll
many.
just
Okay then.
let that sink in.
Yep, it's thinking.
In
And
several
then
ways.
they're extremely extremely fecund, I guess you could say. They lay eggs in
Oh, of course they are.
long strings that form masses that look like a tangle of spaghetti, but sometimes in different colors, like bright red, for example. It's wild.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
they can lay up to 41,000 eggs per minute. Per minute.
What?
What?
Minute? I was already astounded with 41,000 eggs, and then you said per minute. What?
A
That's
single
That's a
string.
lot.
Yes. A single string of eggs can contain over 80 million eggs. So they're definitely going for quality over quantity here.
Ooh.
Okay.
You mean they're going for quantity over quality?
That's what I said, didn't I? Did
No,
I
you
say
said the other
quality?
way.
Oh, well, I meant quantity over quality. Yes, that's what I meant.
Oh, that's so many though.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. Oh no.
Just wow.
Yeah. The other main thing that I'm going to wrap up with is that I want to talk about is their nervous system. Aplysia have absolutely giant neurons. Enormous. Enormous neurons.
Huh.
Aside from egg cells in the animal kingdom, they're the largest cells found among animals. Some of them are large enough to be seen with the naked
Really?
eye. Yes, this paper I was reading had a
What?
picture of one on a penny, and it was about the same size as the letters in the word liberty. A little smaller.
Whoa.
What?
A cell.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's large.
That's huge.
Yeah. So this fact, combined with the fact that it has relatively few neurons and a pretty simple nervous system, has made Aplysia a very important model organism. And this is where my mom comes in. She was, for many years, a neuroscientist and worked studying Aplysia's nervous system with Eric Kandel's group. And Kandel, many years later, won a Nobel Prize for some of his research.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah, these Aplysias only have about 10,000 neurons in their central nervous system, which is not very many.
Yeah.
I mean, it
Well,
may sound like a
they're
lot,
that big.
but yeah.
Sure.
But because they're so large and there are not that many of them compared to pretty much any other animal, and they actually come in different colors, which is wild, they are pretty easy to map.
That's fun.
And because of this, these animals have been incredibly important in developing a basic understanding of how neurons can map to responses. So they can map a single neuron in Aplysia to a simple response, such as retracting their siphon when it's touched. They know there's one neuron that does that. And they can also learn. They can learn through the sort of classical ways of classical conditioning, operant conditioning, habituation, and sensitization. And the thing that the Nobel Prize was for was showing that learning results in actual physical changes in neurons, which is super cool. And this is true not only for Aplysia, but then can be applied to all kinds of animals, including humans. So it's incredibly foundational research for all of neuroscience.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and my mom was involved in it back in the day. So
That's so cool.
this one's been on my list
Very
for a
cool.
long time, and I finally decided it was time to talk about it. So this one's for you, Mom.
Oh,
amazing.
My
My sources this week were an article in Current Biology from 2011 about Aplysia by Leonid Moroz and the University of Miami website, as well as Wikipedia.
Awesome. Thanks, Victoria.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Very
welcome.
cool.
That is what we have for you this week.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're going to say goodbye and see you next time.
See you later.
Thanks everyone for listening to today's show. Be sure to subscribe. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and we love sharing this strange world with all our listeners. If you would be so kind as to leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever you get your podcasts, that would be great. It lets other lovers of the strange discover the show. You can reach us by searching for Strange by Nature Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky. You can send us an email as well. Our address is contact@strangebynaturepodcast.com. If you want more information about the show, you can check out our website, strangebynaturepodcast.com, and you can support the show and get ad-free episodes at patreon.com/strangebynature. Until next week, get outside, stay curious, and embrace the strange.